Mark Zuckerberg sees a pregnant woman struggling at a gas station. What he does next will leave you in tears. Before we continue this story, let us know where you're watching from. If you enjoy stories like this, subscribe to the channel because tomorrow we have another special story for you. The sun was setting, painting the sky with shades of orange and pink, as Mark Zuckerberg pulled into a small gas station on the edge of town. Dressed casually in a black t-shirt and jeans, he looked like any other traveler stopping to refuel. But something caught his eye. Standing by one of the pumps was a heavily pregnant woman, her beige uniform slightly wrinkled and her movements slow yet deliberate as she assisted a customer. Mark observed her for a moment, his curiosity piqued. Despite her condition, the woman worked tirelessly, carefully pumping gas and offering polite smiles to every customer. Her expression was a mix of exhaustion and determination, and it was clear she wasn't doing this job by choice but out of necessity. Mark couldn't help but wonder, why was she here, working such a physically demanding job in her state? As she finished with the car in front of him, Mark noticed the subtle way she rubbed her back, trying to ease the strain. Her fatigue was evident, yet her professionalism didn't waver. When it was finally his turn, she approached him with the same polite demeanor, asking, "How much would you like, sir?" Mark hesitated for a moment before answering, his mind racing with questions. "Fill it up, please," he said, his voice calm but laced with curiosity. As she worked, he couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to her story, something that deserved to be understood. He watched as she completed the task with precision, her focus unwavering even as a bead of sweat trickled down her temple. There was a quiet strength about her, a resilience that both intrigued and moved him. Little did she know, the man she was serving wasn't just another customer passing through. He was about to change her life forever. Mark couldn't help but ask the question that had been weighing on his mind. As the woman handed him the receipt, he said softly, "You seem like you're working really hard. Shouldn't you be resting, especially in your condition?" The woman paused for a moment, startled by his gentle tone. She looked up at him, her tired eyes meeting his. "Rest isn't really an option," she said with a small, weary smile. "Bills don't stop just because life gets harder." Her words hung in the air, heavier than the fading sunlight. Mark noticed how carefully she chose her words, as if she didn't want to sound like she was complaining. "Do you work here every day?" he asked, trying to keep his tone casual. "6 days a week," she replied, her voice steady but tinged with exhaustion. "Sometimes 7 if they're short-staffed. My husband and I are expecting our first baby, and with him out of work, I don't have a choice. We need every penny we can get." She hesitated for a moment, then added almost as if to herself, "It'll be worth it once the baby is here." Mark felt a pang of emotion he couldn't quite describe. The weight of her reality contrasted sharply with the life he led, a life of privilege and opportunity. Here was someone who, despite her struggles, carried herself with quiet dignity and strength. As the conversation lingered, a customer behind him honked impatiently, snapping them both back to the moment. She quickly stepped back, apologizing. "Sorry, I need to keep moving." "Thank you for your business, sir." Mark nodded, but his mind was racing. As she walked to the next car, he watched her closely, noticing how she winced slightly with each step. He couldn't leave, not yet. Something about this woman's perseverance stirred something deep within him, and he knew he had to do more than just offer kind words. Pulling his phone from his pocket, Mark began typing rapidly, his mind already forming a plan. This wasn't going to be an ordinary stop for gas. He was determined to do something that would truly make a difference in her life. Mark sat in his car for a moment, watching as the woman continued to serve customers, her movements slow but steady. Every step she took seemed to carry the weight of her struggles, yet she never showed any sign of complaint. There was a quiet resilience in her, a strength that inspired Mark in ways he hadn't anticipated. He couldn't simply drive away, not after seeing what he had. He made a call. "Hi, I need a favor," he said into the phone. His voice was calm but carried a sense of urgency. "I'll send you the details, but I need this handled as soon as possible." The person on the other end seemed confused but didn't question him further. Mark was known for his decisiveness, and this was no exception. After ending the call, he stepped out of his car and walked back toward the gas pumps. The woman was assisting another customer but noticed him approaching out of the corner of her eye. "Is everything okay?" she asked, her voice a mix of politeness and concern. It wasn't every day that a customer returned after their transaction was done. Mark smiled faintly. "Everything's fine," he replied. I wanted to ask if there's anything you need. Anything at all? The question caught her off guard. She looked at him, puzzled. That's kind of you, but I'm fine. Really, she said, though her voice betrayed her exhaustion. I just have to keep going, you know? That's life. Mark nodded, respecting her humility, but he wasn't satisfied with her answer. He needed to know more. Do you mind if I ask, what's your dream? If you could change anything about your situation, what would it be? Her eyes widened at the unexpected question. She hesitated, unsure if he was serious, but something about his genuine expression compelled her to answer. Honestly, she said quietly, I just want a safe place for my baby, a home where we don't have to worry about rent or bills piling up. I'd love to take some time off to care for my child, but that feels impossible right now. Mark listened intently, his heart heavy yet filled with determination. He glanced around the station, noting how the other employees seemed equally overworked. This wasn't just a fleeting moment for him, it was a call to action. He reached into his pocket and handed her his business card. Hang on to this, he said. You'll be hearing from me very soon. The woman took the card hesitantly, reading the name on it. Her eyes widened as she realized who he was. Wait, are you... Mark didn't let her finish. He simply smiled and said, Just trust me. The woman stood there, frozen, clutching Mark's card as if it held the answers to all her worries. She glanced between the card and the man in front of her, her mind racing with disbelief. Why would someone like you care about someone like me? She finally managed to ask, her voice shaking. Mark's expression softened. Because I've been in places where people overlooked what really mattered, he said. And I've seen how small acts of kindness can ripple into something much bigger. Your hard work, your perseverance, it's inspiring. You deserve a chance to breathe, to care for yourself and your family without this constant weight on your shoulders. Before she could respond, a sleek black SUV pulled into the gas station and parked near them. Two men in suits stepped out and approached Mark, nodding respectfully. Everything's ready, sir, one of them said quietly, handing him a folder. Mark opened the folder and reviewed the contents, his face calm but focused. He then turned back to the woman, holding the folder out to her. Inside this is a deed to a small house not far from here. It's yours now, fully paid for. The woman's eyes widened and her knees buckled slightly as she gasped. What? No, I can't accept this, she stammered, tears streaming down her face. I don't even know how to thank you. Mark gently placed the folder in her hands, steadying her as he spoke. You don't need to thank me. Just use this opportunity to build the life you and your family deserve. Focus on your baby, on your future. That's all I ask. By now, the other employees and a few customers had gathered nearby, watching the scene unfold with stunned expressions. Whispers of admiration filled the air, and some even pulled out their phones to record what was happening. But Mark wasn't looking for recognition. His focus was solely on the woman standing before him. She clutched the folder tightly, her tears falling freely as she tried to process what had just happened. You don't understand what this means to me, she whispered. You've changed everything. Mark smiled warmly. Sometimes all it takes is one moment to change everything, he said. Take care of yourself and your family. You deserve it. The crowd around the gas station grew as word of the unexpected act of kindness spread. Some customers applauded softly, while others wiped away tears, moved by the overwhelming emotion of the moment. The woman stood there, holding the deed to her new home, her tears now mixed with a radiant smile she hadn't worn in months. For the first time in what felt like forever, the weight on her shoulders began to lift. Mark turned to the gathering crowd and gave a small nod, signaling that the moment wasn't about him. It was about the power of kindness. He glanced back at the woman one last time and said, This is your fresh start. Never forget how strong you are. Before she could respond, Mark began walking toward his car, his demeanor calm and composed. As he opened the door, the woman called out to him, her voice breaking with emotion. Mr. Zuckerberg, he paused, turning to face her. Thank you, she said, her words filled with gratitude and reverence. Not just for this, but for seeing me, for caring. Mark smiled and gave a small wave. Take care, he said simply before driving away, leaving behind a story that would inspire everyone who had witnessed it. The employees, customers, and even passers-by stood in silence for a moment, reflecting on what they had just seen. The woman, still holding the folder, felt a renewed sense of hope. She knew that this act of kindness would ripple through her life, allowing her to focus on her family and give her child the future they deserved. And as she looked around at the faces of those watching, she realized that Mark's actions hadn't just changed her life. They had reminded everyone of the power of compassion and the importance of helping others. If this heartwarming story moved you, don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends, and let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Subscribe to our channel for more inspiring stories like this, and don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you never miss an update. Together, let's spread kindness and positivity. Thank you for watching.